Motels are back in style. More travelers are opting for locally owned motels over corporate hotels for the nostalgia and renovated mid-century vibe. We have correspondent Jon Marcus here with what to expect when you stay at a boutique motel. Jon, first off, what's the difference between a motel and a hotel?
Well, the practical difference is that in a motel, the doors to your room are on the outside. Okay. They're exterior corridors overlooking the parking lot. There's maybe a small lobby, but no elevator. And that's the principal difference.
So if that's all the difference, pretty much, why have motels received a negative, reputation?
Well, that's the practical difference. The cultural difference is that motels were built to be cheap. They were built in the days when the car was king and people would go on road trips and pull off the highway and just pick any random place to stay overnight. They were cheap. That was their value. Mm-hmm. And so we sort of forgot about them, and we allowed them to deteriorate in a lot of ways. Often they were bypassed by the interstates. These motels were downtown, where people didn't go anymore. And so we kind of lost track and forgot about them.
But we're remembering them now. There's been this resurgence for boutique motels. What exactly is this phenomenon?
This is a really interesting trend. These motels have a number of things that recommend them. One is they were built in the middle of the 20th century, and mid-century architecture and design is really hot now. They often are in the middle of the community. That went from being a negative to a positive for these motels. You're right there, downtown. You're not at the highway exit at the edge of town like the big beige chain hotel is. And I think there are other reasons that are driving this trend. One interesting one is that a whole generation of people have been reintroduced to motels by Schitt's Creek.
When it's time to lay down your weary head, you'll find comfort and safety at the partially renovated Rosebud Motel. And don't forget to say hello to your handsome proprietor, Mr. Jonathan Rose.
Thank you for having us.
John, no.
And that turns out to be a much more significant driver of this trend than you would think.
Wait, seriously? The hit TV show Schitt's Creek is why people love motels again?
They might not love what they saw of the motel in Schitt's Creek, but there were charming elements of it that speak to this kind of resurgence. It was very connected to the community. And there was a warmth and charm to it. You asked about what makes a boutique motel different. High thread count sheets, nice towels, nice bath products, really beautifully redesigned rooms with a lot of mid-century kind of touches and furniture. The motel that you see behind us also speaks to another sort of aspect of these motels that's really popular, which is the signs. The signs are often specific to the period, and they're often in neon. And if they haven't preserved the original sign, they'll often restore one. That signs were meant to draw that driver to your roadside motel. They were really beautiful in hindsight, and they're preserving those as well.
And you mentioned that they're owned by individual owners, not big corporations. Who did you speak to, and what did they tell you about motel ownership?
Yeah, so a lot of the people that are doing this are independent owners and designers who are very drawn to the mid-century vibe. I spoke to a guy that had started his career in hotels, restoring a hotel in Williamsburg in Brooklyn, the capital of hip. And he just restored a motel in Nashville, which they've renamed the Dive. And it was an old motel where Dolly Parton stayed and Hank Williams.
So it's got history to it.
It's got history to it. They used this as a palette to recreate rooms, each with its own theme, shag comforters, spinning disco balls in every room. Really just a very cool, kind of different place to stay.
Looks aside, what about perks? What about the travel perks that big hotels offer you? Are the motels, the boutique motels, getting into that game too?
Well, there you're not going to find those. Okay. Because these motels are independently owned, they don't necessarily have points or rewards programs, or if they do, they're only for their own motels. But what you are going to get is meeting other guests, sitting in the backyard at the Dogfish Inn, which was an old motel in Delaware that was redeveloped by the founder of Dogfish brewing. And there's a sitting area in the back with a fire pit, and once a week he goes over there and talks about beer with the guests, and they get to meet each other. That's a perk you wouldn't get in the Marriott at the highway exit.
Well, we always get perks and benefits when Jon Marcus joins us. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for saying that, and thank you for having me.